lift the lid on the new show. We're joined now by Jacob and his wife, Helena Rees-Mogg. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's nuts and bonkers and brilliant. How did you get involved?
Well, I got an email out of the blue from the production company, which, to be perfectly honest, I thought was a spoof.
Yeah.
Because people do send MPs things that turn out not to be entirely accurate. So I have an agent, I passed on to him, said, look, let's see what this is. I mentioned it to the children who thought this sounded quite exciting at the time. And then it turned out to be real, and we had a discussion, and it was going to be all very political, and my doing constituency surgeries and all of that.
Yeah.
And none of this quite happened because the election came at the beginning, whereas we were expecting it rather at the end of proceedings. So it became more family than political.
Right.
How are you about that? Did you have reservations?
Yes, I think it would be fair to say I had reservations.
Wow, that was a very political answer there.
But yes, no, we were discussing it, and then, but it was, yes, probably Parliament surgeries, and it was definitely going to be 85% Jacob and about 15% the rest of us.
Yeah.
And
Right.
Then...
Is that percentage you negotiated?
No, I think I was just sort of told that
Yeah.
that's what was happening. I haven't actually worked out whether it is actually that or not. But
Yeah.
Anyway, but I think it was meant to be an election called in October, perhaps.
Yeah.
Maybe at the Conservative Party conference, a convenient general election, November or December, about now then. Cliffhanger, will he, won't he keep his seat? And then, bang, the election starting gun was fired on the 22nd of May. And I think did they ring you up and say, like, can we come round and start filming today, now?
We either start now or we don't do it. But we hadn't actually agreed things at that point. But if we were going to do it,
we haven't signed anything.
No, if we were going to do it, we needed to start.
So disconcerting, though.
So we were off to the races straight away.
Wow, and have you ever seen anything like it before? You say in the show, I'd never seen the Kardashians, but did you start watching The Furies or something?
We watched The Furies in the summer.
Together. I mean,
as your homework.
It was too late by then, we'd started.
We were well into it by then. But I thought, and this is what's happening with this programme, I thought Mrs. Fury was wonderful.
Right.
And I think Helena comes out of this wonderfully.
Very kind.
Mr. Fury and I are the sort of old
Mrs.
grumps
Fury.
in the background. But I don't mind that. But I think Helena and Mrs. Fury are great stars in all of this.
Very kind. I think she's much hotter than me, so...
Talk yourself down. I can't believe we're having this conversation.
No.
But Jacob is, it'd be fair to say, a divisive character.
Yes.
But your children aren't divisive politicians. So were you worried at all about them? Because they seem to be enjoying every second of it, given the trailer.
We certainly thought about that and discussed it. I mean, Alfred and Sixtus are still really quite little. I think when it started, they were 8 and 6, and then 8 and 7. They're sort of small and cute, and the older ones we obviously certainly thought about sort of social media and what their friends would think, and school and that kind of thing. Anselm's 12 and getting a bit more self-conscious. So we certainly spoke. I spoke at length to the producers about that sort of before filming started.
Yes.
And the teenagers, but they took part to varying degrees. With what they were happy to.
Sure.
Yeah. And Jacob, some of your views are very, very divisive. Like, some people agree, some people don't. But in this, you actually turn around and you just wave and smile to everybody, essentially. And there's a moment in it where you turn around and you say, I like winding people up.
Well, there is an element of winding up po-faced, humorless lefties, which I think we should all take at every opportunity. But if you're interested in politics, you have to stand up for what you believe in. Otherwise, what on earth's the point of doing it? But if you have strong beliefs and you express them, people will disagree with you, and that's part of politics. And some people will express their disagreement using Anglo-Saxon phraseology.
Would you watch this? Could you understand that your constituents would be unhappy with you making this show?
No, I don't think constituents would have minded one way or another. I think that when you are an MP, the people you represent recognise that you are a public figure, and you find that in your constituency, because one of the great things about our political system is how open MPs are to the people who've elected for them. So you're constantly around and about in your constituency, and people come up to you all the time, whether you're with your children or you're doing sort of routine things. And I think that's a great part of our political life.
You've actually seen all of them now. Are there any regrets in there at all, or is there anything that you would quite like to do different? Are you happy with it?
Well, I particularly like episode 4.
OK.
Because it's all about Mary, really, our only daughter. And Mary was very enthusiastic about this. And I obviously think my daughter is a superstar. And so I love watching the episode where she's there with her horse and her dog and so on. And I think that's absolutely lovely. No, I was nervous about it because I recognised it was a risk and this type of TV can go badly wrong. But we seem to have survived.
There was one bit when we're away in France and it looks as though Sixtus knocks over a glass of red wine. But
it was my fault.
Actually, he didn't. He was on my right.
He was blameless.
And I think someone passed something to someone because they asked, and a glass of red wine got knocked over. But I don't think it was by Sixtus.
No, it was
I think somehow on TV he's almost like he gets blamed for it on TV.
It was entirely my fault.
But it was you or Anselm or Alfred or someone.
It was me.
Because I think, actually, that's what they are, the stars of the show, the children. I think people can really relate to the children running around. But I think there's other elements of the show as well that people are... It's like a completely different world. There's a house in Westminster, a house in the country, staff working for you. Are you worried that that alienates you slightly?
I think everybody leads different lives. That there's this idea politicians have that there is a sort of uniform life led by voters, and this is just nonsense. Everybody's life is individual. But they also have similarities. So, yes, we have black tie dinners on Saturdays, but the children have to be got to school on time. And so there are similarities across all lives as well as differences. And I think people understand that. But we're curious, aren't we? We always want to know how other people lead their lives. I always notice with Conservative events, if they're in somebody's house, you get more people going than if they're in a function room. Why? Because we want to see how people live.
Yeah.
A little part of you, tiny part of you, relieved that you lost your seat and going forward. Like, the pressure is almost off. You don't need to be a member of Parliament. You don't need to do this TV show.
I very much enjoyed being a member of Parliament. I was very lucky when I lost my seat because I had my GB News programme to go to on Monday evening, and therefore I still had work to do. I think it's much harder for people who didn't have a job once they lost their seat. But no, I love being in Parliament, and I'm very tempted, if anyone will have me, to go back in.
What, irrespective of the party? Or?
No. I was thinking of Conservative associations. No, I don't think I would be a very attractive socialist candidate somehow.
Would you like to do a second series of this?
Lord, well, let's see how this one goes.
Helen's just immediately looked down.
Let's see if we survive the first one.
Ask us next week.
But there was an interesting moment where they talked to you, Helena, about meeting for the first time. And when you first met for the first time, you were 1.
I was 1 and he was 9.
So you don't remember any of that, obviously. But the second time you met...
I mean, he was 9. Hello.
What was the initial reaction like between the two of you?
Jacob's younger sister, Annunziata, introduced us at a party. She was having like a political party. She was having in a basement in Mayfair. It was the launch party of trustthepeople.org, which I misremember as being about getting a vote on our membership of the EU, but in fact was to do with the Constitution or something. Okay, anyway. So at that point, I'd become friends with Annunziata and I'd certainly met her parents, my now parents-in-law. And I saw Jacob. You may have been talking to someone, you may have been standing alone, you may have been...
Probably fiddling with my
not have been.
It's what I usually do at drinks parties.
But I remember seeing him and thinking, gosh, that man looks just like William Rees-Mogg, so it must be his son. And then... when I said hello to Annunziata, I said, that man looks just like your father. So I assume he's your brother.
And there it was.
At this point, obviously hoping so.
Intriguing.
I
believe intriguing was the terminology used.
And Annunziata said, oh, yes, that's Jacob, and introduced us. So.
Well, the show is on Discovery Plus from Monday. Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload new content every day, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. And we'll see you in the morning.